I want to pick up some comments again about Southport because they are valid. Um, Super Reds 1904 says the scenes in Southport following the shocking and horrific murders are just as appalling. This is why people like Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Katie Hopkins, Nigel Farage, and news outlets like GB News are so very dangerous. Their rhetoric resonates with hate filled bigots who believe every unverified word their people say, get themselves worked up, and then act violently. What's alarming, although not in the least surprising, is that Stephen, Katie, Nigel, and the others never ever condemn the actions of the likes of the EDL. They leap to their defence. They don't even say their actions are wrong. I swear, when the likes of Stephen Yaxley Lennon hear of events like the three girls being murdered in Southport, they smile from ear to ear and instantly start thinking about exploiting such events to spread hate and division. Uh, I don't think I don't think it's as clear cut as that. What I think absolutely, and I will repeat the point that I've made, and one of the reasons that I've covered um, Tommy Robinson's cases, stories so carefully, I hope, is because I think he is a polarizing figure, and because really whatever he does is likely to draw attention, because he's ceased to be an individual, he's become an icon. And part of this is because of his charisma. I use the word charisma not as a way of saluting him or reverencing him, simply as a way of indicating his extraordinarily passionate and um, effective manipulation of the media. He is very good on message. He's very good. And to deny that would be to live in the land of stupidity. The same thing is true of Farage. Farage is a master and deeply charismatic. And uh, I think it's sometimes interesting to analyze Farage's speeches and his interviews, particularly, and the way he evades questions and pursues his own sound bites. And again, he is very, very good. It would take an interviewer of great skill to challenge Farage, and indeed to challenge Tommy Robinson. They've, they have become very good at what they do. They have honed their skill, and they have a big following. The same is true of many of the people on the right. They have a very small remit, a small um, story to sell, and they sell it very professionally and very well, spreading this hate. Now, hate is one thing, but the other thing is what they is something that I think they're not aware of doing, which is what they are doing. They are spreading the idea that we must look to find not to support the victims, but to find and um, destroy those people we identify, or they identify, as being the cause. So they're very good at confusing the problem with the cause. And this is something that you also saw with Suella Braverman when she was at the top of her game. She's now, of course, crawling around in the gutter. But, uh, Suella Braverman can join that lot. And she will again be a very dangerous voice. Why? Because she has one particular story to tell, one agendum, and that is to blame, to identify a migrant problem, and to blame the migrants for that problem. It's a very convincing story, but it goes all the way back to the pogroms to the anti-Semitism in the Middle Ages, and all the way back. So in the Middle Ages, in the 19th century, it was anti-Semitism. Today, it's Islamophobia. Tomorrow, it could be anything, but it's about othering people. And it's about identifying a problem with integration of other communities into our society, and then blaming the newcomers for all the problems of that integration. It's as old as the hills. It's dog whistling. It's repulsive. And it's very much led by people like Tommy Robinson. And they don't have to do very much now. In fact, they can sit back and they can sound very grand and very very detached. But simply their presence is enough. Now, of course, the British authorities recognise this. It may explain why they're so determined to pursue Tommy Robinson. But that's not an appropriate response. It's not a legal response. It looks like victimization, and it comes across as victimization. And of course, the British character is to sympathize with the underdog, and Tommy Robinson then becomes the underdog, the martyr. And he plays to that role too very, very well, very effectively. And it's reading that broader story which I think is so important. And if we ignore that and we say, oh, don't talk about him, then we are suppressing the only conversation that can challenge this narrative. Because it's not about having a chat with Tommy Robinson. It's not about having an argument with Tommy Robinson, and he says this and I say this, and there must be we must hear both sides of the argument, because not everybody can holds the whole truth. Actually, that conversation itself is the wrong way forward. It doesn't work. Tommy Robinson doesn't need to say anything. He can be perfectly reasonable. He is still inciting, because he has moved beyond, like El Cid, moved beyond the pages of history into mythology, into legend. He is an icon, like Farage. And when somebody moves to that position, it's like Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar dead is more powerful than Julius Caesar alive. The name of Tommy Robinson is more powerful than what he says. The name of Farage is more powerful than what he says. Why? Because in the face of that, we have eroded the unity in society. We have eroded trust in the authority figures. And so, of course, these figures of the far right have bubbled up to assume a power that is phenomenal. And they have no rival. The nameless, the faceless police, the nameless judiciary, set against the icon of Farage, the icon of Tommy Robinson, Katie Hopkins. Katie Hopkins, I find her name so difficult. She rang me up once. I find her name so difficult because I always think of the person who won the Erosion Song Contest. I can't even remember the song now. So I always think of Katie Hopkins in a short skirt singing some sort of ridiculous 1960s song. But that's not her. As for GB News, I still nurture a belief that it shows the way forward for a future of a diversity of news channels some private, some publicly owned. Um, and there are some good people on GB News. But you know, it's the power. It's the power of the Tommy Robinsons and the Nigel Farages. Have you noticed Nigel Farage has been quiet about Southport?